That was fun. Good morning. And happy Halloween Eve, I think it is. I'm Lisa Burby, and I'm your worship associate this morning. Our opening words are from I Pledge Allegiance to the Earth and All Life by Reverend Vern Barnett. I pledge allegiance to the earth and all life, the fields and streams, the mountains and seas, the forests and deserts, the air and soil, all species and reserves, habitats and environments. One world, one creation, one home, indivisible for all, affected by pollution anywhere, depleted by any waste, endangered by greedy consumption, degradation by faithlessness, preserved by recycling, conservation, and reverence. The great gift renewed for all generations to come, protected, preserved by reducing, reusing, recycling, with conservation and reverence, the great gift renewed for all generations to come. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington's dual platform Sunday service. It's good to be together. We are live and in person here in our main hall in Huntington. Whether you are streaming us live on Zoom or Facebook or watching us on YouTube later, know that you are welcome here. Today is our Sunday Program Committee service. Our interim minister, Reverend Deborah Hafner, will be here next Sunday. She leads 3 Sunday services a month. If you are new to this congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact us by email at office@uufh.org. We'll put this information in the chat for those of you at home later on. Know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We always have some announcements because we're a very busy congregation, and I've been asked to whittle it down, so here we go. The pumpkin patch is winding down. In fact, if you haven't gotten your pumpkin yet, what are you waiting for? Thanks to all our wonderful pumpkin sellers, and the Pumpkin Patch Queens have one more request for today after the service. We ask that all who are able to spare an hour or two come to the patch and help us bring all of the equipment back to the fellowship. I was by there this morning and there are very few pumpkins left, which is a very good thing. This coming Friday and Saturday, all are invited to attend 2 different movies at the Cinema Arts Center for a series of films and panel discussions on confronting hate without fear. If you want to attend, the information is on our website and this week's weekly newsletter, The Flash. There's also information about an election night watch party on Tuesday, November 8th. Join Reverend Deborah and your fellow congregants here in the social hall for a non-partisan election night watch party. We'll see. Sign up information's in the Flash, and all are welcome. If you don't currently get our weekly newsletter, The Flash, it's easy to sign up on our homepage at UUFH.org to come and become informed of all the events in this very busy congregation. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's guest speaker, Bruce Knotts. Bruce was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia, worked for Raytheon in Saudi Arabia, and on a World Bank contract in Somalia before he joined the Department of State as a U.S. diplomat in 1984. Bruce had diplomatic assignments in Greece, Zambia, India, Pakistan, Kenya, Sudan, Côte d'Ivoire, and the Gambia, where he served as Deputy Chief of Mission. While in Côte d'Ivoire, he served as the Regional Refugee Coordinator for West Africa. He worked closely with the several UN special representatives and observed UN peacekeeping operations in Sierra Leone from 2000 to 2003. Bruce retired from the Foreign Service in 2007 and began directing the UUNO office, United Nations office, in 2008. He founded faith-based advocacy for sexual orientation, gender, identity, human rights at the United Nations, and continues to advocate for the rights of women, Indigenous peoples, and for sustainable development in moral terms of faith and values. He's co-chair of the UN NGO Committee on Human Rights, the chair of the NGO Committee on Disarmament, Peace and Security, and a member of the steering committee of the NGO UN Security Council Working Group. Bruce retired from the UUA a few weeks ago, September 30th, and quickly became, very short retirement. Currently, he's the Director of International Engagement for the Community Church in New York. In 2006, Bruce and Isaac Humphrey were wed in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Isaac works internationally as an event environmentalist for Apple, Google, Horatio Alger Awards, and others. Welcome, Bruce. It's wonderful to have you back. And this is the time in our service where we light the chalice, the symbol of our faith. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for our mystery, for the mystery. Please join me in saying our mission statement. The words will be on the screen. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Please stand as you are able, in body and spirit, and join us in singing hymn number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. The words are on the screen, and we're going to sing this through twice after Isabella plays a brief prelude.
Good morning, everybody. The reading today comes from, it says right here, Reverend William F. Schultz. I've never called him William. He's always been Bill Schultz to me. And it's simply cherish the earth. Regardless of our differences, there are a host of affirmations that we embrace as the basis for our faith. Whatever we think the holy may be, creation itself is holy. We make no distinctions between the natural and the supernatural, the secular and the sacred. We simply cherish the earth and all its creatures, the stars and all their glory. Life's gifts are available to everyone, not just the chosen or the saved. Only human artifice or blind ill fortune can separate us from the source of our blessings. That which is divine, precocious, and profound, or precious and profound, is made evident not in the miraculous or otherworldly, but in the simple and everyday. We look not to the heavens or to the afterlife for our meaning, but to the exuberance of this life's unfolding. Human beings themselves are responsible for the planet and its future. Social and environmental justice are a religious obligation. The future has never faded. The future is never faded. Every one of us has held in creation's hand. We share its burdens and its radiance. Hence, strangers need not be enemies. The earth is our cherished home. All its inhabitants are companions. Though death confronts us, we love life all the more, perhaps because we lose it. An honorable and impassioned life may not deny death its due, but it can surely deny it its victory. Oh, and we will now sing Spirit of Life.
Prayer for UN Sunday by Reverend Morgan R. McLean. We give thanks today for all that is our lives. On this day of thinking globally, we acknowledge the privileged comforts in which we live and vow again to be generous and grateful. Today we pray for the earth and all of its creation. We feel the pain of our precious web of life, challenged by the human-made climate crisis. Today, we forgive ourselves for our contributions to the crisis and recommit to action on behalf of the water and the creatures and the plants and the people, struggling to breathe, failing to thrive, disappearing, and being displaced by the changing earth. Today we honor the United Nations for the generations of coming together in a hurting world, working toward a vision of peace, equality, and dignity on a healthy planet. We give thanks for centuries of Unitarian Universalists who have honored the inherent worth and dignity of every person and brought us to this moment of our faith, prepared to work tirelessly for justice and a sustainable life for all. Let us not despair. Let us feel the strength of our community around us, rising in hope and action. Let us change the world. We have a few joys and concerns this week. Tristan Krumholtz, son of Michael and Marion Krumholtz, turned 1 Saturday, October 15th. He is a blessing and a joy, said his grandma, Jackie Krumholtz. Nancy Wilco had total knee replacement surgery this past Wednesday. Her husband, Larry, asked that we all wish her a speedy recovery. For these names and those unspoken, we send our love, our support. Know that this community is here for you. Today is your last opportunity to donate to the UUA Disaster Relief Fund for Florida. The information is on your screen, but the most important thing for you to know is that this will help our fellow UUs in Fort Myers and Venice, where congregations were significantly affected by last month's Hurricane Ian. You can support both them and the work we do here with our October split plate. For those of you who don't know, the split plate means that half of what you donate goes to the UUA Disaster Relief Fund, and the other half supports the work we do here within our walls and beyond our walls. So please give generously.
Our second reading today is A Strong Reverence for Life by Reverend Carol Hipokopsky. I really butchered that name, sorry for that. Humanist Voices of Unitarian Universalism. Those of us who call ourselves religious humanists have a strong reverence for life. Many of us experience a deep sense of awe before the mystery of life and death, those powers greater than ourselves. We share a respect for science and reason, and we are willing to live with ambiguity, to live without definite answers. We share a deep concern for about injustice, and the fate of human life. Indeed, of all life on this planet, our home in the universe. We identify with the human story, even as we recognize it's intimately tied to the story of the rest of the world. And I just lost my place. My environmentalism and my humanism are inexorably related. My humanism tells me that human life is important and worthy of respect and care. My environmentalism tells me that to be a human is to be part of the interdependent circle of life. It is counterproductive to imagine ourselves as separate. My knowledge of today's world informs me that planet Earth and thus human life are in danger because of the threat of global warming. I want to see life, including human life, preserved and thriving on our planet. My environmental humanism compels me to work to reduce the causes of climate change, the human practices that threaten the survival of life on Earth. So, dear sisters and brothers in faith, I am delighted to be with you here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington. It's been a long time since I've been here. We've all kind of lived through the worst of the pandemic. Reverend Jude also sends his regards to you, as I'm working with him now in community church. I so much admire the work you all do to create the beloved community. Our last spring seminar in April this year was on climate-forced displacement. Our keynote speakers were the Pacific Island students fighting climate change. 2 of these students are at the United Nations now and working with the mission of Vanuatu to the UN. Vanuatu is one of 15 Pacific Island states threatened by rising sea levels caused by climate change. The indigenous peoples of these islands have a profound connection to their land, where they and their ancestors have lived. Vanuatu has been called the world's densest linguistic landscape. There are 145 languages spoken by fewer than 300,000 people. Each linguistic group has its own culture and connection to the land where they live and where their ancestors are buried. All this is to say that these people are not easily moved to Australia or to the United States. Such displacement is a profound cultural injury. Pacific Islands and in the Pacific preserve fresh water in pools and wells. This water is what they use to drink and use to grow their food that they need to eat. With sea levels rising, salt water inundates freshwater reserves, contaminating the fresh water, making it impossible to drink or use for agriculture. We see the effects of climate-forced displacement around the world and here in our own country. I'm from California. My husband and I joined family members to distribute the ashes of my cousin's late husband, Glenn, at Trinity Lake, California. As we drove from San Francisco up north to Trinity Lake, we saw thousands of acres of destroyed forest caused by climate change. Trinity Lake itself has lost much of its water, as have many of the lakes and rivers in the West due to climate change. There have been 8,100 recorded forest fires in California, destroying 4.5 million acres of land, including farmland and residential areas, in 2020 alone. People have lost their homes and livelihoods, which insurance has failed to fully recompense. This displacement in California and in the Pacific Islands is taking place everywhere in the world. Floods in British Columbia and Canada, homes washed away in Germany, and we haven't touched the part of the globe where the poorest and most vulnerable to climate change live. These climate events force people to leave the land where they live and seek refuge elsewhere. Sometimes that elsewhere is within their own home country, but with increasing frequency, these catastrophic climate events cause people to seek refuge in another country. Current refugee and migration law comes from the experience of the Second World War. You need to demonstrate a well-founded fear of persecution by your government due to your ethnicity, politics, religion, or other factors. This kind of persecution is what resulted in the Second World War, where millions of Jews and others were being killed by Germany and millions of people fled oppression and war. Refugee and migration law have not been updated to consider climate change. Furthermore, there is no political appetite to expand the circumstances under which people can claim refugee status. However, regardless of the inadequacies of the law, people must move. My own experience with refugees is that people move mostly out of concern for their children. What parent can watch their children suffer and do nothing? Parents who see their children starving, in danger, without hope of a decent life, will do whatever they can to get their children to a safe space. where they can where they have hope for a safe and dignified life. What to do? We must fight climate change. Recently, the United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to make safe environment a human right. We also expect the Vanuatu resolution to pass, which will call on the International Court of Justice to provide an advisory opinion on the legal obligation for nations to ensure a safe environment for everyone, everywhere. Addressing climate change is no longer optional, it's mandatory. It is urgent that we preserve our forests, especially the Amazon forests in Brazil. Forests are our best hope for absorbing carbon emissions caused by climate change. The United Nations has made it clear that to survive, more of the Earth's surface needs to be covered by forests, and far less can be devoted to industrial animal agriculture. That means we need to change what we eat. In 2011, the UUA enacted the Ethical Eating and Food Environmental Justice Statement of Conscience. This statement calls on us to eat a plant-based diet as much as possible and to eat food that is grown locally. The Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation took notice of our resolution, and they promote Ethical Eating Day every January 11th. That's 111. So 111, they have been, since January 11th, 2019, the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation has gathered 1,229,908 pledges to eat ethically in order to protect the environment. So while the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation promotes our ethical eating around the world based on our ethical eating statement of conscience in 2011, UUs are largely oblivious to our own statement of conscience on ethical eating. I am proud to be a Unitarian Universalist. I'm also proud to be a follower of Dharma Master Chen Yen, and I am a Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation Commissioner. So we need to fight climate change by every means at our disposal, beginning with our own eating habits. Secondly, we need to share what we have. We need to be more generous and giving. We need to open our door and our borders to those seeking refuge from disastrous conditions caused by the polluting industrial nations of the world. We need to embrace the concept of loss and damage. When a country like Pakistan is inundated by flooding that covers 1/3 of the country, destroying homes and precious agricultural land, we need to use our own wealth to compensate for the loss and damage of our industrial wealth caused by our industrial wealth, caused by our industries around the world. We have a serious labor shortage here in the United States and elsewhere. We have jobs and we can accommodate more immigrants who are eager to work hard and have a safe place to live for themselves and their families. Moving on from climate change, climate forced displacement, let me touch on the global political situation. I have long observed that we need to dismantle many hierarchies: white supremacy, religious nationalism, English language supremacy, patriarchy, and much more. Patriarchy oppresses us all. It is only by dismantling patriarchy that we can breathe free. I have retired from my position at the UUA, giving me the time and opportunity to focus my advocacy on the issues of concern to me. I am currently the Director of International Engagement at Community Church of New York, where in 1962, the Unitarian Universalist United Nations office began its 60-year history advocating for UU values at the UN. If you will indulge me, I would like to recall 3 initiatives that the UU at UN has done that I feel the most proud of, that has happened over the past years. and I want to discuss how these achievements were accomplished, which might prove a guide to all of us to looking forward to global advocacy in a more aggressive, well-resourced forces, in better ways to advocate. Those who are on the other side, which are mostly Christian nationalists or religious nationalists of many types, these are autocratic religious sources, and they seek to destroy human rights, democracy, diversity, and inclusion. These are the folks that make it a crime to say gay. They ban books, and they won't allow a discussion of slavery and what was done to indigenous peoples around the world, because telling the truth might disturb some of the bigots' sense of superiority. I began my time at the UU at UN by meeting Reverend Bill Sinkford in Boston, and I said, I hope you don't mind, but I intend to follow a very aggressive pro-LGBTIQ plus program at the UN. Bill said, if you don't follow such a program, that I will mind. I felt the wind in my sails, and that's the kind of support from the top that empowers dedication and concerted action. The UN is planning a conference in Paris. The UN was planning a conference in Paris to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The UN planned to discuss the human rights of just about everyone: men, women, Dalits in India, Roma in Europe, everybody except LGBT people. I raised my hand and I asked, what about the human rights of LGBT people? I was told, okay, we'll take that under advisement. I kept asking the question week after week, and I recruited allies. Finally, I was given the first ever workshop on LGBT issues ever at any of these conferences that had taken place before. My workshop in Paris was well attended, including a Swedish diplomat who told me that the European Union planned to present a draft resolution calling on the world to end violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Later, I was at a breakout session, and I was asked by Sister Joan Kirby, who was both a Catholic and Buddhist nun, and I can tell you about that later. After that speech, a Catholic Monsignor came up to me, and he grabbed me by the collar, and he kind of pulled me to the side, and I kind of wondered what was going on. And he said, I just want to tell you I'm gay, and I support everything you're doing. I said, okay, that's good. When I returned to New York, I worked with many others at the Norwegian mission to the UN to ensure the UN General Assembly draft resolution succeeded. It did. In 2015, I got a call from one of the lawyers representing the family of Tamir Rice. You remember, Tamir was a 12-year-old boy playing alone in a park with a toy gun. Timothy Lohman, a white police officer, drove up to Tamir and shot and killed the boy with no warning. The lawyer wanted to know if he could host an event at the UN to highlight this police brutality. I said, of course. I mentioned that we could expect an event with about 50 people. Then another lawyer called and said he knew Harry Belafonte. I said, oh, if you know Harry Belafonte, then we're going to have a much bigger event. And it was. 500 people were in the audience. The event was live webcast worldwide on UN Web TV. I called Harry Belafonte. I said, you are UN royalty. And he said, thank you, Bruce, for your warm embrace. He was magnificent. Alicia Garza from Black Lives Matter was also a featured speaker. The High Commissioner for Human Rights and a host of other luminaries were there. We launched the UN Decade of People of African Descent, and that decade is still going forward because it goes all the way until 2025. And I just did something and I lost my space again. All right. Finally, I did what I could to bring same-sex marriage to Taiwan. It's the only nation in Asia that has done that. I was asked to speak at the World League of Freedom and Democracy, And I went there several times over a period of years, and I met with the Taiwanese president, the vice president, with the foreign minister. I went with my husband, and I did everything I could to promote the idea of same-sex marriage in Taiwan. I talked to LGBT activists. I talked to government leaders on all the different political parties. I talked to religious people, including the people that didn't agree with this. And Master Chen Yen, as I mentioned before, she's the Dharma Master of the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation. She told me, she said, I don't want to get involved with politics, so I don't want you to tell anybody that I'm either for or against same-sex marriage. I said, okay. And I said, but can I tell them that you and your entire Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation have been gracious and welcoming to me and my husband? She said, yes, you can say that. So I told that to everybody in Taiwan that I could get my hands on. And I said, actions speak louder than words. So, and I've lost my place again. There's a lot here. I spoke to a lot of people. The Presbyterian Church of Taiwan, which is much more conservative than the Presbyterian Church of the United States, had demanded there be a referendum on same-sex marriage. And so they had a referendum. And the majority of the people, small majority, but a majority anyway, voted that they did not want to have same-sex marriage. And so I gave a speech that was instantly on all the newspapers, on all the media around the country, saying that you cannot vote on people's human rights. The majority will always vote against the minority. Voting on other people's human rights just isn't there. And so that was instantaneously great. And so when they actually debated same-sex marriage in the National Assembly, there were some people who said, we just had a referendum on same-sex marriage, and most people don't want it. And others got up and said, yes, but Bruce Knotts, who's a leader of an NGO at the UN, said you can't vote on people's human rights. A majority cannot vote on the minority's human rights. And so they passed same-sex marriage. And it's the only country, the largest continent in the world, Asia, it's the only country that has it. Charlie Clemens, you probably remember him, wonderful, wonderful guy. He taught me a lot of what I needed to know. He was the head of UUSC, and he said, Bruce, you're the right person in the right place at the right time. That's my story. In everything that I've just mentioned above, I see an opportunity, I see an opening to maybe get something done, and I go for it. And that's what we all need to do. We need to look and stay awake and be aware. And when you see that moment where you can make a difference with patience, persistence, and professionalism, you go for it and you get it. Now people say, well, since you can do this, get same-sex marriage in Taiwan, how about handling the Uyghurs and the Rohingya? And believe me, I do advocate for them. And then they say, well, what about nuclear weapons? And I advocate for the abolition of nuclear weapons. But maybe I'm not the right person at the right place at the right time for these other issues, even though I advocate for them anyway. So what I'm saying to you is just pay attention, be alert, really understand that sometimes the opportunity arises. And if you're alert to that and you see an opportunity and you can go in there and really make a difference, do it. And really be as forceful as you possibly can. And don't do it alone, because I didn't do any of this alone. I got allies. I took my husband. Everything. I went everywhere to try to get as much support as I possibly could. And you all can do that too. So, all right, I've actually come to the end of my talk, a little ad-libbing there. But I'm really love to be here with you. You're one of my favorite congregations, and amen and blessings to you all.
I wanna see the world united and learn to live as one. I wanna see the world united, learn to live as one. I wanna see the world united, learn to live as one. I wanna see the world united, learn to live as one. Zala, ke ando stengeli na bato, bakufela bitumba. Zongisa, ke ando na mituna ya bato, bakufela nanzala. Zala, ke ando koki na bato, bakufela bitumba. Zongisa, ke ando stengeli na bato, bakufela nanzala. We have to bring the world together and learn to live as one. We have to bring the world together, learn to live as one. El instante lo que cuenta. Vive sonriendo hasta el final. Pero vendrán días de alegría que nadie puede creer. We have to bring the world together and learn to live as one. We have to bring the world together, learn to live as one.
זה הזמן להגיד, אנחנו לב אחד. השיר הזה הוא של כולנו, נשיר אותו בקול אחד. We have to bring the world together. We have to live as one. We have to bring the world together. We shall overcome. سيد السلام أعد لنا السلام. We have to bring the world together. We have to live as one. We have to bring the world together. We shall overcome. سيد السلام. We have to bring the world together. We have to live as one. We have to bring the world together. We shall overcome. We have to live as one.
As we extinguish the chalice, we share these words. Spirit of community, in which we share and find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward one another, seeking to bring into our circle of concern all who need our love and support. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to love, and to care. For those of you at home, have a wonderful, peaceful day. For those of you here, you may also have a wonderful, peaceful day. I don't mean to exclude you, but if you would like, there's a mask optional coffee in the back in the social hall. Bruce is here to welcome and I'm sure have conversation with all of you. Thank you, Bruce, for being here once again. You're our favorite repeat guest speaker. And those of you who partake in coffee, do say thank you to Chris Weisletter, who volunteered to make coffee today, and ask her how she did it so that you too can make coffee next week.